what a freaking mess. This kind of just got all tangled up here, but today we're probably finally going to start getting some wiring done on this thing. Mess with the factory harness, mess with this standalone harness that I made. If you want to have a guide on how to do one of these, or kind of maybe little walkthrough steps, I posted a video with some good information on there a few videos back on building this for this car. Kind of set it up in my red IROC Camaro at home, so I could actually just bring it over here and hopefully line stuff somewhat close. Made stuff a little bit longer and everything, but we're gonna mount the coils up on this thing, mess with the factory harness, and then get this harness in hopefully. So let's get started. All right, so when you're doing these LS coils, at least for this generation, you've got all the wires on these connectors are the same, except for one wire on each coil. Starting from the beginning, you got purple, blue, green, and red. Now on the driver's side, purple's always at the front, and you work your way back. Purple is always at the front, so you can't mix them up because they all kind of go in a row. And on the passenger side, purple's always in the back. So kind of just follow that, and you'll be able to figure out where these go. Because if you put them on wrong, it will not run right. Ask me how I know. I only got 2 bolts in there, okay? Sue me. All right, we got the coils on. We got our factory harness just kind of laying in here. I mean, realistically, on this side, all we're going to be using is these 2 wires, because I'm pretty sure these are all powers to go to, like, the factory gauges, or powers for the inside for the fuse box. This is just some extra stuff. I'm pretty sure this coming out of there is a ignition power that probably went to an actual like the coils or distributor, whatever was on this car from the factory. This is a trigger wire or something like that. What does it say? 20 amp fuse coolant fan. So that's like a relay for the coolant fans. If we want to use it, we can. We've got wiper motor connectors. We've got 1 wire here that goes all the way over here that goes to, I've just tucked it away for now, that goes to a coolant temp sensor. I'm guessing that's for the one on the actual cluster. And then if we come over here, this is another thing I taped up. This was like the powers, I think, coming out of that relay box, or that relay over there for the cooling fans. We may honestly get rid of that and run our own thing, run our own separate relay. But we also have the starter wire coming from the ignition coil, which we'll need. And I think we've got a couple grounds back there too that we got to address with. But honestly, main focus right now is I'm just going to tape these 2 wires up here. They've got fusible links on them, but I'll probably just tape them up just to keep them clean and get them out of the way for right now. And then I'll grab our standalone harness and start laying it in here. All right, so I always use the Scotch Super 33. That's what I've been using for years. That's what I started using when I was doing electrical. Seems to hold up pretty good over time, as far as, like, you know, if you've seen some really cheap vinyl tape, that gets really hard over time as far as just with the weather and stuff like that. This stuff seems to stay pretty good. So I'm going to show you something, a little trick here that I do with wiring that I learned when I was starting this. To kind of help tape your wires easier, so you're not sitting here like, I don't know, like tape piece by piece, or I don't know how else you would do it, because I've just been doing this for so long. Just bring your tape off your roll, kind of go at a half like angle there, finish it, and then I just take this, hold the wire tight, and just wrap the wire, bring the roll down, keep bringing it down, and then just go through the whole harness like that. You want to keep it close so you don't have gaps like that in there. But honestly, all we're really doing here anyway is this tape adds a little bit of heat resistance maybe, but all we're kind of doing here is just cleaning it up so it's just not falling all over the place. So you go down the whole roll like that, and you can keep going as long as you want. So This is going to be a little confusing here. I'm going to try to kind of lay this out, start plugging stuff in, and then I'll be able to, hopefully easily start kind of laying stuff out how I want it to be. I'd rather get the engine harness on. We got to kind of get it untangled. We got a bunch of grounds here and stuff like that. So we got to make sure we got the right side and everything like that, which I would think this harness, this side would go, this stuff's just tangled. That's the biggest problem here. These little stupid blue things on these GM connectors just get caught on everything. It always starts a mess, but hopefully you can make it cleaner. I know I ran some of these a little differently so that we can kind of have a more cleanliness harness, but we're gonna see what happens here. So we got a little bit of a room here, I guess. Like I said, I'm just gonna go over this, kind of just start plugging stuff in where it needs to go, and then, you know, be able to more easily route the actual powers and stuff like that. I feel like the best place to usually start is kind of with the coil and injector harness, because they're always like somewhat together. So if you kind of start there, you can kind of just work your way off of that. It's a good starting place, because then you kind of know you got stuff almost where you need it to be. These are all stuff that goes to the back, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, this whole harness here goes to the back. You got these two connectors. I'm on the passenger side, so these two connectors are going to go to the back because these are actually O2 sensors. So I had those where they routed towards the back, down like the kind of trans tunnel area. We're just going to tuck all those back there because we don't need to mess with those right now. We've got an easy one here that goes to the MAP sensor up here, or the MAP sensor, sorry. That plugs in up there. Can't really remember how I like kind of had this wire harness routing up top here, but we're gonna figure it out. Because literally all we have left over on this side is injectors, and I would think there would be a crankshaft sensor somewhere, possibly. Right here. There it is. I would think this is it. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is it. I don't know. I gotta go through this. Really sucks when you don't do stuff for a while. Thankfully, I left the plugs that were in on this engine on there, so I pulled this one out of what I think is the camshaft sensor, and you can kind of see that they pretty much match. Thankfully, I left the connectors in those actual, like the camshaft sensor and stuff back there. And you can see these are the same, so we know that this one goes to the camshaft sensor, which is good. And I think what I was doing before was I routed all of these back to there. I'm pretty sure this is a coolant temp sensor, but we don't have the coolant temp sensor actually is broken on this engine. We have to get another one. I think I may have one at home. This is something else too. I don't know if that goes back to there or to the back. Let's see what we got here. Yeah, this is, I'm pretty sure this is either going to go to, yeah, this is going to go to our NOx sensors. So these get all tucked to the back, and this goes to the coolant temp sensor. Oh, I know what this is. Pretty sure this is the alternator plug. You may have to order one of those because this thing's fried. I don't know if you can see that, but that's a little melty. That's probably what that is. Maybe. I don't know. Can't figure out these injectors because there's a certain color for each injector. The old GM ones used to say the cylinder on them, which was nice. At least on my Camaro, I'm pretty sure that's how it was. So, here's our crankshaft sensor. So, I wonder if we can take this guy and like run him all the way through the back of the engine, and then we'll be able to tie him up and then bring him down. We're gonna try that. See what the hay happens here. Pull this through. We'll be able to tie this to our actual engine harness here. And this is a good thing to plug in before you actually have the starter in. So I just left that crank sensor harness with the actual starter harness because we're gonna have to connect those anyway when we plug the starter in and everything like that. So we'll just do it all while we're there. Maybe we'll pull that manifold back off when we do it because it's not that hard to do it. So what we're gonna work on now is just getting kind of maybe this fuse box where I want it. We'll see, because we got some connectors in. Maybe I'll figure out which injectors go where, what wire color, and yeah, we'll kind of go with that because we got most everything in. I got to bring the alternator over here, get a new alternator connector, obviously, because that thing's chewed. And yeah, all we'll have to do is, because I'm going to mount the ECU probably right here, try to figure out some type of mount for it. And we'll just have to run our wires for that. We have to run our wires for an OBD2 connector that comes with the actual kit. And to be honest with you, the power on this thing, on this actual harness that comes with it, will probably, because this has to go to the battery power, I'm going to have this actual terminal piece that I have right in here, one of these guys, and that's where the power for the battery will actually go. I think I'm going to have the battery on the driver's side, or on the passenger side, I'm sorry, and we'll put it to all this. So I'm going to try to figure out where those injectors go, and I'll catch you here in a minute. I don't know if you can see this, but zoom in here. Here's a pretty simple thing, a guide to those injectors. So on you've got three separate wire colors on each injector. So your driver's side front is black, so that'd be cylinder 1 black, cylinder 3 pink and black, cylinder 5 black and white, and cylinder 7 red and black. So you got 1, 3, 5, 7. So if you always remember, small block Chevy, odds on the driver, evens on the passenger. So, and then on this side you'll have 2 in the front, so 2, 4, 6, 8. That's on any small block Chevy. Obviously this is an LS, but same thing. Front number 2 cylinder be light green and black, cylinder 4 be light blue and black, cylinder 6 yellow and black, and cylinder 8 dark blue and white. So we got all those plugged in. So now I'm gonna start mounting this actual, or try to get this in a decent spot to see where we want it to be at. I know I kind of want it up on that firewall there, so that's kind of where we're gonna put it. I'm probably gonna get rid of this bracket here because it's just gonna kind of be in the way of what we're trying to do. Because I don't really know if we're gonna be using this relay or not. And if we're not, we can honestly just realistically get that thing the heck out of the way. It looks like a mess in here, but like I said, we'll get it better. So yeah, I'm gonna get this bracket out of here because we have a whole another separate bracket for this actual piece to slide into. Somebody did a great job of painting this engine bay. Not really. So, what we're gonna try to kind of have, as long as I'm not stepping on these wires, is something, I'm gonna have to pull this closer, but something kind of like this. And then we'll obviously tape all our wires together where we need them and stuff like that. And hopefully have some enough slack on here. We're just getting really taught up by these things here, because we're going to have the ECU up here, and we'll try to make like a mount holder or something like that for that harness, but we're probably going to have the fuse block up here. Something like that. Like I said, this is all mock-up. We got 2 grounds here that we can probably run over to that cylinder head over there, maybe. We got to hook our grounds up for our actual harness. This gray wire here that's coming out of this fuse block is the power to our fuel pump. And I've got a wire coming out of here that says, what does it say? Fuel pump prime relay. So realistically, this thing has its own relay on it for a fuel pump. So what we have to do is go into the car, and I'm pretty sure as long as it carries over to the Firebird, the power wire going to the fuel pump is tan and white. I remember doing that on my car, so we have to go to that one. And then I think we have to ground the fuel pump separately to the actual chassis or something like that. So we're going to take this ignition wire that we need on here. This pink and black wire is your ignition wire. And we're going to run that all the way over here. I'll probably tape it so it's black, so when we tie it up, you won't just see a pink wire laying out there. And I'm going to try to like get into a hole somewhere here. I think maybe this hole here, I can't remember. And I'm pretty sure this connector is called the C100 connector. If I can remember correctly, it's one of those. But let me get a light here. This whole connector here, there's a couple ignition wires on here, and I think one of these says that they're like it's a 10 amp relay or 10 amp fuse ignition, and that's what the actual instructions call for. So we're gonna run that guy all the way over to here to there, because it's already fused, so why not we just use it, you know, instead of running a whole new harness for that fuse. It's gonna take a little bit of a, you know, slack to get it over to there, but we have enough wire where we can extend it. So I'll probably work on that, and we got to get that gray wire inside the car also and figure out where that fuel pump, I know that fuel pump power wire runs along by the driver's side, by the driver's seat, so we got to try to find that too. Maybe we could find it up in the fuse box area. Wiring is stressful. So we got our pink wire ran all the way to over here on the passenger side. I'm just gonna leave it out for now until I have time to come over another day, because we're gonna probably have to extend this a little bit. I left this untaped. Like I said, I taped it up so you don't see this just like bare pink wire running along the back there. We're gonna find a hole to put that in. So, but I have to bring over my stuff for like my wire connectors and everything like that, for all that good stuff. So, in the meantime, that's probably where I'll leave it for today. At least we got some connectors in and everything like that. We know where stuff needs to go. Looks like a mess right now, but the further we get, the better it will look, I promise you. So, I'll catch you guys here soon. All right, y'all. New day. Rainy out there. But hey, we're in a garage, so it don't matter. So, we got this guy. Like I said, yesterday we got this kind of a little sorted out, somewhat. And we got to kind of start hooking our wires up here for certain things. Honestly, all this stuff is this stuff on this side for like the ECU and everything like that. This is just like miscellaneous stuff. What I have actually done is ran that pink and black wire, which needs to go to a 10 amp fused ignition source. I actually ran this all the way along the actual firewall here, kind of in line with the other harness, the factory harness. And I got a little grommet, I don't know if you can see that down in there. There was already a hole there for what I'm guessing is the heater box. So I ran that guy. I actually took a pick and like pushed it through the hole, and you can actually see that guy comes out right there. I don't know if you can see that or not. Yeah, comes out of that right by that heater box. So what we're gonna do is just kind of solder that to that actual 10 amp fused on that C100 connector, and then that'll be done. And then we'll probably try to work on drilling a hole or something like that for that actual this gray wire, which needs to go to the power wire of the actual fuel pump. I'll probably have that go in through the passenger side, because I am pretty sure the power wire for the going back to the fuel pump is on the passenger side. At least that's how it was in my car. So I may have to pull up the wiring diagram and see. So I'm going to solder that up and bring it back when I'm probably trying to route that gray wire inside. Alright, y'all, so I'm going to kind of run you through what I kind of did here. I don't know if you'll be able to see down here, but there is a hole. You probably can't see. There's a hole down there that I don't know what could possibly be for. Maybe it was for a throttle cable or something. I don't know. I don't think so. But anyway, let me grab this light here. You can probably see it here. If I can stand my light up here and remove this little piece of sound ending. Oh, there's a spider right there. Anyway, there's a hole right there. I put a grommet in it. And it had this white wire coming from that. See where I got that red wire twisted to that tan wire? This was coming out of that hole. So I have a feeling that that is the power for the fuel pump, because that is tan and white. And like I said, the tan and white is usually the power going from there back to the actual fuel pump. So I've obviously had my whole 88 Camaro apart. I've messed with these kind of body styles before, so I kind of know where stuff is. I do know that in the back seat here, in the actual behind the rear seat, there is this connector here. And I'm kind of glad I checked, because look what they got on here. This should really be soldered, so thankfully I pulled that off. I'll pull this off, solder that connection, because you don't want, you know, feels like there's some tension on here too. You really don't want this to be your fuel pump power source. But this is the connector that kind of mounts into the actual body of the car. Looks like they did a freaking fuel trap door, which is great. But what I kind of want to do is, I got that red wire connected up front because I'm just going to leave this connected for now. And then I'm going to kind of attach a ground wire to here, and then use my Milwaukee battery to hook up a power and ground to the actual fuel pump, and see if that wire under there is for the actual power for the fuel pump. Because, oh boy, because there's a lot of wires, you know, there's some stuff inside cars where connectors are the same color and everything like that. So you just kind of want to be sure. I'm not going to just solder that gray wire from that actual relay box to that and just guess. I just want to be sure before I do that. So that's why I went back to there to get to that connector, so I can get to the power and ground. And I'll just run a long wire over to here so we can kind of test it right here. So I'm going to hook all that up, show you what I did, and we'll see if that works. All right. So I kind of just stripped that wire back on there. I use these strippers. I got these at Summit a while ago. I always use these. These work pretty well. They have really fancy ones, but I just stripped it back, kind of twisted that wire around there, and I just kind of did the same thing on that tan and white wire. So we're going to hook this up to the battery and see what happens. Kind of give these guys a twist here. And if you look really hard on your Milwaukee batteries, you can see which one's negative and which one's positive. I'm using two red wires, of course, which is great. Let's see if we could shove those in there. I don't know if this is going to work well, but yep. I don't know if you could hear it. That's definitely the power. I heard that fuel pump kick on, so that's great. We got that wire out. What we're going to have to do is probably cut that black wire right there and try to run a ground just to the chassis for that fuel pump. I'm not really too worried about that today. I would like to get that fuel pump wire figured out, but we could honestly just cut that black wire there and solder to the end of it, and then run a wire to the ground somewhere, to a ground somewhere for it, so that it, you know, it's got a good ground. Because in the actual instructions for that standalone harness, it says to actually you know, ground the fuel pump to the chassis, which was what we're going to do. Unfortunately, I have to fix that tan and black wire or tan and white wire because that's a big no-no. Those crimp connectors, they work good in a pinch, but they're not good for longevity. So, and me, as I like wiring and stuff like that, I have to fix it or I'm going to lose my mind. So, all right. So we got that in. That wire fixed. That wire ran from the actual fuse block to the power wire for the fuel pump. We left that black wire off just to try to, we'll mess with that when we get to the point of almost starting this thing. So realistically, I got the ECU mount bracket ordered, and I got to get the bracket over here to mount the actual fuse box, this piece. And then, honestly, everything will be in. As far as wiring goes, pretty simple. I mean, that was literally, it's 3 wires. And then you got grounds that I have to hook up also. So it's not too bad. So we'll probably try to find a spot to mount the ECU, or how we're going to mount the ECU. At this point, it's not that big of a deal to get this thing started with it kind of just laying there. If we don't get to that point, you know, right away, not that big of a deal. We got a lot of stuff we got to do here still. We got to get some oil for it. We got to get an alternator because the alternator I had at home was actually bad. It wouldn't spin at all. So I'm probably going to go to Pull Apart and grab one because they're literally 2 bolts and that's it. But it's good. We figured out for the fuel pump, we got all that wired in and stuff. So I'm going to call it a day here today at least. And I'll catch you guys tomorrow. All right, y'all. New day here. Pretty solid outside today. Not too cold. So, like I said, I had an alternator for this thing. Well, I grabbed that thing from underneath my bench at home, and it was locked up solid. So, I went up to Pull Apart, and this brand new boy was literally sitting on the top of a hood of a Silverado. And I found this brand new tensioner. So, that's a win. It was about $70 for both of those. They get you with these core charges and stuff. But anyway, I'm over here now, and I actually got our fuse box mounted up with our relays. And we got a little bit of a problem here. These wires are a little tight. You don't want to be too tight when this thing's moving around and shaking and stuff like that. And I'd rather them just be, you know, because this ECU is going to come up some. We'll probably try to mount it up here or something like that, like on this. And that might add a little bit of slack into these wires if we do that. But we still need this to kind of lay over here, and you can see how kind of tight that is. We don't want that. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut each one of these wires and kind of extend them. Not the best thing in the world to do, but if we want it to be in decent shape and not be tugged on the whole time, we kind of got to do it. So, that's what I'm probably going to do next. All right, so I kind of started with this green wire because it was a little, it was kind of tucked under the actual harness where you don't really want it. So yeah, I kind of take these and wrap them like this, kind of like an X almost. Spin them over, and then they're like that, and then I'll just solder them like that. All right, so kind of got everything a little taped up. We got everything extended, a little more slack on those wires. Hopefully we can try to figure something out as far as routing this, but it's looking a little bit better. And then we'll be able to kind of figure out once we get our actual ECU mount in here, figure out where to mount it. Probably what I'm going to do next is maybe try to run these grounds to the back cylinder head. And then kind of realistically, the wiring for the fuse block will be done, except we still have to wire in this OBD2 port, which is a few wires. And I'd realistically like to put this inside the car. So maybe we'll do that too. All right, also, like I said, I've wanted this in the car, this OBD2 port. And this is the, I guess you'd say OBD1 connector, I'm pretty sure. And this really looks like it's going to fit up in there. So I think what I'm going to do is try to just, let's see if we can tuck this guy out of the way. Yeah, that's good enough. We'll just tuck that guy out of the way, and then we'll mount this guy up there, just like that. And then we'll run the wire somewhere. Figure out something. Right, y'all. So we got her mounted up in there, and we'll probably tie her up to something up in here, and goes right out the firewall over there. So that's gonna work great. Y'all, probably a little hard to see under here, but we got our power hooked up. That's going into the actual, if you could see that orange wire there, it's going into the power wire. We got our grounds hooked up. We got our data to our ECU hooked up. That's the 3 wires that are on that. It's literally, let me pull this here. Literally on the OBD2 port, use orange, which is battery power. That goes to the PCM battery power, which we did. The dark green, which is a serial data. It's a cavity 15, pin 58 on the blue PCM connector, which we did. And then the 2 ground wires go to ground. They have these tan and black wires twisted together. That's if you're using a Gen 4 setup. So we're using Gen 3. So we realistically got almost everything hooked up in this thing. At least to get this thing to run, I just got to run a ground to that actual fuel pump. We got to get our O2 sensors ran and stuff, crank sensor plugged in, but that's very minute. Like I said, I'll probably when I go under there to put the starter in, I'll plug that crank sensor in. We'll get our alternator in, we'll get the tensioner pulley in, and fix that connector for the alternator. And then we'll probably, tie some stuff up, stab some stuff out of the way and everything. And then our next journey would probably be the fuel system. So probably what I'm going to do, let me grab this light here. What I'm going to do is, so you got factory feed lines. Hold on, all this stuff's in the way here. Your factory fuel lines come up this frame rail here. So I'm going to buy some adapters to go from these to those. The actual push connectors on the LS's. Probably going to have to be like an AN style setup because that's kind of all I could find. It looks to be around like $200 some for all the pieces you need. I'll do a separate video on that, and we'll kind of go over what pieces you need. I'll have part numbers and everything on there. But yeah, I'm going to get my alternator in, put that new tensioner on there because it's new, and call it for a night. Whoa, boy. Man, your boy's lucky you can get in this thing. Hurt my back a couple days ago, and it's just been ongoing pain. I was out for like 2 days. Anyway, so that's mostly pretty much it for wiring. We'll have some nitpicks here and there and stuff like that. But honestly, everything else is pretty simple. It's just power and grounds. We got to figure out what we're going to do with some relays and stuff like that, but that'll be kind of in a future episode. Next thing I really want to tackle is the fuel system, because that is a main piece. But hopefully in the next few weeks we can maybe start to get some life out of this thing and see what happens and get some noise out of it to hear if there's anything wrong with this motor. We need fuel system, training lines. Coolant's not that big of a deal to get this thing to run. We can let it run for a little bit without anything in it, so we don't have to worry about hoses or anything like that. I just want to hear this thing run and see what it sounds like. Like I said, hopefully in the next couple weeks. But that'll probably be it for this episode. Hopefully you guys maybe learned some soldering stuff there. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I can always answer them. You know, I've been doing wired for a long time, so just a little bit on the standalone harness. Like I said, for everything else, take your time, read your instructions, and you can do anything. But either way, thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hit that like button. Hit subscribe if you want. Leave a comment. Take it easy.